Okay, we are live and we are up and running. And thank you all for attending. And again, we are in the virus cycle, so I'm going to talk about that in order to help. There's a lot to help with. This is a good time for me to be involved and incarnated and walking around. I'm 69 and you don't know of me, but I'm Lama Dorje. I'm the reincarnation of Buddha Maitreya, Jesus the Christ, and recognized by Tibetans. And the movie Little Buddha is based on my life. I was recognized when I was 9. They came to America. They did the whole thing just like Jesus in the manger. It took me this long to do a lot of work and to complete where we're at in this world. I was working as a young age, working on electric cars when I was around 7, 8, 9, 10. I finished that when I was 15, and I made slot cars as my model. I was an engineer, a designer, mechanical drawing, drafting. I was really good at it, and so I drafted out the future car, and it was an electric car. It looked a lot like a Tesla. And I designed the entire makeup of the car, and so then I scaled it down, which is what you do in drafting. I scaled it down, and that came out to what we know as a slot car. And so everybody knows it's a slot car. Is it working? Yeah, everybody knows of slot cars, but that's where it came from. I scaled it down and created a great big industry of people enjoying slot cars. But I was actually in the engineer design stage of the future, and practicing and working with the design of electric cars. So once I got that stabilized, and I was 15, I knew we needed the batteries and we needed the solar and we needed all the other things. I began working on those. But I also knew in order to do this, we needed technologies and advancements, computers, and all the things that I can help to increase. So I focused my time on NASA and joined every club you can think of, Mercury program, and I was in the Mercury program, and I got all the letters and everything, and all the models, every single model of every single flight that ever went up, and we got insight information, because we were fans of the Mercury Club, and that moved us on to the next stage, and Apollo, and and into other higher levels of time to the point that we got to the moon. And by around 1964, I was very involved because Mercury started way before that. And when the president came along and said that he wanted us to get to the moon, that really helped me a lot because I needed the advancements for us to go that direction, and for us to be able to land on the moon. We needed navigational skills, we needed the trajectory and understanding, we needed to be able to go outside the ship and feel comfortable, we needed to be able to live on board the ship so that we can have a space station both on the moon and in space. And that was my game plan. And then came 2001: A Space Odyssey. So I'm in heaven. Everything's going right on schedule. And I'm all alone in this, 100% all alone in this. There are no Bill Gates, there are no, all these things you all get to experience. I had nothing like that, not a thing like that, just me. But I was pulling it off, and I was watching the news, and I'm watching the world, of a new group of world servers serving my program. And even though I was just a little child, I didn't see myself that way. I saw myself as a kind of an elderly guy. At least in my 60s, and I'm only 15, 14, but I was so wise and so grounded and so well aware of what was going on that I never saw myself as anything other than a master, incarnated and without the elderly look, So I carried on that way. I carried on with the space program, I carried on with the electric car, I carried on with solar, I carried on. And then I got drafted in the military, and they moved me into Vietnam War. And it's been 4 years as a conscious objector, the only Buddhist in the entire military, as far as I could see. There's anybody around me. When Sunday came, we all went to church, and I stood there with my own sign saying Buddhist. I was the only person who got in that line. So it was like the biggest joke everywhere. Oh my God, there's an actual Buddhist here. It was pretty funny, really, really funny. But that was my life, and that's what I led. And while I was in the military, I stood strong in my relationship to never touching a gun, even though I was in the military. So they put me in prison a couple times. And in and out. When I first went in, I spent a month and a half in prison, and because they said, no, I won't use your gun to practice and learn and all that. And so they threw me in jail many times, and then stopped after they threw me out the building and broke my feet and everything. That ended their way of dealing with me. And they just let me stay in boot camp and finish my boot camp without having to go through boot camp. Because I was on crutches. How are you going to go through boot camp? So I finished it up, and I had a job to do, which was go into medicine. So I immediately became a hospital corpsman, and they sent me to a hospital, and I went through school. And the moment I got in the hospital, I was like, super genius, super Jesus, walking around, and see anything I saw, if there was something wrong with it, I didn't go to sleep until I figured it out, wrote down notes, went to the library, and figured out the outcome, whether it's medicine or not. I went through the medical library, I went through everything, and by the end of the day, I came up with the best diagnosis and the best procedure at hand. I carried it out, and I had conversations with the doctors, with insinuating, well, did you hear about this, and they go, yeah, but how did you, and then they'd want me in surgery. So they literally moved me from a regular hospital corpsman to working in surgery, where I was a surgery tech, where I could stand there with the doctors and have conversations of good ideas about what's going on during surgery. Now, this went on for 3 years, but I also ran surgical intensive care, and I was in charge of the burn unit. And absolutely nobody wanted to walk into the burn unit. Nobody. Everybody walked in there, went into shock, went out, threw up, never wanted to go back. Their PTSD was so high from being around a burn patient because they're dying and suffering. You got to debride them. You got to do all this stuff. I had no problem with it. I had a problem with it, but I got over it. This person's much more important than my little emotions and my throwing up in the bathroom. Sure, I threw up just like everybody else. I cried just like everybody else. I had the same feelings and the same fear of being there, walk this person right to the death door. And that's a horrible thought. It's a horrible thought. I had like 5 or 6 patients all the time, because this is Vietnam. We were the center point for Travis Air Force Base. They would come to Travis Air Force, fly in, and then come directly to Oak Knoll Naval Hospital. And that was Oak Knoll Naval Hospital, the center point for Vietnam military war veterans and people who were coming from Vietnam. So I was right in the center of all that, And everybody wanted to do certain things in order to help these burn patients, but I came up with a beautiful thing. I came up with the answer, even though I was only 19 years old, and I went to the library and studied my ass off and learned about stem cells, the theory principle behind stem cells, and where you could find stem cells. And I went, wow, really? Placenta? I see placentas almost every day from the women who give birth, and then we just stick it in the refrigerator and we don't do anything with it. We just throw it away. And I thought, whoa, I'm going to take some placenta and thin slice it and place it on the wound, right directly on the wound. And I had people whose chests were all burnt and the arms were all burnt, face was all burnt, and underneath that wrapping was a placenta rather than silver nitrate, which is what they recommended, a cream of silver nitrate. And then you got to debride that off. But I put the placenta on within 2 weeks. The debriding fell off. Old skin fell off, leaving pink skin. And inflammation went away. And doctors would come, and if I knew they were coming, I would immediately take all bandages off, put the cream on, put the bandages back on, and come in and see your patient, But one day they came, while I wasn't there, and they took the bandages off, and there's all this weird ass shit. And the doctors thought, oh my God, the person's got gangrene, what is this, and then they finally get down to the skin, and it's pink, and it's healing beyond their belief, all the way up to the head, all around the head, the neck, the back, the lower groin. The person was good 60% burnt, and they lived. I got them to live. Not only live, but their scar tissue was not there. They had so many things change because of the use of that placenta. But that was my last day of work in that hospital. And they got me and moved me, and so I had to stay. I got to stay in the hospital, but I couldn't stay in surgical intensive care, and I couldn't stay with the burn patient, but I could do surgery. So I continued now only working as an EM tech and in surgery. And one day I went to surgery, and at that time, I was heavy into spontaneous meditation. I would, without any knowing what's going on, I would sit and I wouldn't hear anything. I'd just be gone, and I'd be gone for hours. And, and be very lucky if I'm home or, but if I'm at work, it's very, people like shake me to get me to come out of it, and it was beginning to happen pretty often, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. It was just spontaneous. So one day they took me into surgery to do surgery on this lady who had a tumor sitting on her liver that was extended out to a big lump that you could see, and it was probably about the size of my fist. And I was prepping her, creating a sterile field, setting up everything, and all of a sudden I went into meditation. My hand slapped down right next to this lump, and I'm going, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, and I'm like, I'm not aware of it, it's just going on, and all of a sudden I come out of this, and a bloody tumor, is sitting in my hand. And a nurse is running out the room screaming. The anesthesiologist is going, no, no. Did you see that? No, I didn't see that. This isn't real. No. And then the doctor who's wasn't watching, he sees this tumor in my hand, and he goes, oh my God, what kind of joke is that? That's a terrible joke. I says, it's not a joke. I don't know where it came from. And he says, well, who was doing that Om? And I said, well, that was me, but I no intention behind anything. This just happened, and I'm sitting with a tumor in my hand. I never had this happen before in my life, and he's just going, well, that is amazing. So then they got an x-ray machine because we were in the middle of doing surgery to take that tumor out. So in comes x-ray, in comes lab, they take the tumor, put it in a tray, in comes x-ray, they check the x-ray out, there's no tumor. No tumor in the lady at all. So then about 2 minutes later, security comes. Security of all people. They come walking in the door, they grab me, and they say, you have to go to jail. What have you done? I said, well, I don't know. What have I? I didn't do anything. But come to find out the captain had a strong belief that no one has the ability but Jesus to do things like this. And that some terrible satanic thing just took place in his, he's the captain. Under his command, this happened, and he's totally freaked out. He'd just seen Rosemary's Baby, So it's not a good time for me, And I'm completely an innocent process here. I'm just 24/7 serving, doing everything I can, and then all of a sudden this happens, So out of that, I created a lot of things. I helped to bring about a lot of things. And then after that, I brought about other changes to medicine. I moved outside of medicine, went back and studied medicine. I went way beyond medicine, started going to a place to where I had many professors that saw me as much more than a person who needs to do medicine, practice medicine. So one from India, a professor and a doctor from India who's a homeopath, walked up to me and says, you are born to be a homeopath. And I don't even know what homeopathy is. So he says, well, here's everything. Here's the entire kit. Here's Hanuman's Organian. Here is everything, all my stuff, all of my homeopathic repertoire right here for you, and I'm just going to class. And I'm just like 27 at that time, 25, 26, 27, somewhere around there, because that's my college time, And so this guy, he turns all this over to me. So now all of a sudden, I am investigating science that has been made illegal and was the foundation of America's medicine and medicine in general. Homeopathy. All medical schools were medical schools of homeopathy. There was no other medical school. All were medical schools of homeopathy. And then pharmacology came. And that made it illegal because nobody could go through medical school without passing pharmacological belief systems in science. So then the law came over and says, we can't do homeopathy anymore because it doesn't go along with pharmacology, with the sciences behind pharmacology. Yeah, so now all doctors had to become practitioners of pharmacology. And that's why you know them all to have drugs, and they all write prescriptions, and they do all this kind of stuff. And that's what they're taught. And then they're taught surgery and all these other things, but they've been inhibited all the way back to the Dark Ages, digging away all this energetic medicine. So no one really knew about it, but I was given this, so I began studying it, and out of that, by the time I'm 30, I am so well aware of these sciences, quantum level physics applied in regenerative levels and being able to do things to regenerate people. That's like an impossible thing, but yet I was pulling it off. And I had a clinic, and I had things that I brought in from Germany, and I brought in from all around the world that were bioresonant. Computers and bioresonance sciences that were highly developed by the highest physicist in the world, quantum physicist, practicing quantum physics. And I pulled it together and put it in a lab, and I lived in that lab. It was called Synergy. So while I'm doing this, in comes the AMA or whoever you want to, people who judge you for practicing false medicine, being a doctor without a license. And they came to me because I was healing so many people, and people who can't be healed. Were going to their doctors without symptoms anymore, and the doctor's going, how did that happen? Well, this guy in Rouge, did this thing, and put these magnetic resonant things around me and did this other stuff, and I have no more symptoms. And this is all kinds of really weird stuff that you cannot, blindness, a lack of hearing, can't walk, pretty bad stuff, and it's not me laying on hands. I was more than willing to go there, but I want humanity to learn the science of God. So I spent my time studying the science of God. I had the pyramid, everything that I teach now, all the rays, the understanding of the rays, all of that was developed and researched and proven, in my research labs and in my time. So this is all done by the time I'm turned 33. My clinic is ready to close, and I'm ready to go on to doing other things. So I created an enormous amount of sciences that has gone into science. So now we have at the Mayo Clinic, they're doing the research of stem cells for healing burn patients. It's their number one thing, because that's been proven by me. And then it moved them on, and then we had all these presidents and other people saying, well, you're going to take babies and embryos and all these things for stem cells, but that's not true. We take the fat from your own body, we take it from your bone, that we can get stem cells from yourself. You don't have to get them from a placenta like I did, because that was the easiest, best possible way to do it. So I just did it, And I'm sure they're out there doing that, but there's so many different moral laws and ethics that we have to pass through before we can go, okay, we could take a placenta or stem cells from another person and then store them and use them on other people. All these kind of things are about human rights and things that we have to pass through. So we're going to do that. But there are sciences that we're not aware of that I developed that's at the Mayo Clinic. And it's their number one. Their whole entire system is now built on my science. The whole entire thing. I think that's phenomenal. So I'm going to show that to you. Because here we are, we're in this pretty big thing. You know, a lot of people dying, you know, and we don't know how it is we're dying from this. You know, well, we have susceptibilities. Yeah, and we have a way out of it through preventive medicine. Yeah, and we have a new form of medicine, which is regenerative medicine. Yeah, so as we move forward, we need to know these things so we can then go out and say, I want to go to the Mayo Clinic so I can go to regenerative, you know, or I'm going to call the Mayo Clinic and see what doctors have graduated from there that are now in my state, and I can go there. Yeah, I'm teaching this so that we can move forward, because there's already a science. This is not, you know, quasi. When I start talking about vibrational medicine, homeopathy, your eyes will roll back, the doctors will go quackery, you know, but when I start at this point, you know, it's good for everybody, you know, because you can move forward and medicine will come along with you. But you have to be the one to choose. You have to choose integrative medicine, yeah, and then you have to move past that to regenerative medicine. Yeah, got to move past that, yeah. And then in regenerative medicine, they're going to teach you the relationship on how to live a whole lot longer and eliminate enormous amounts of things that you've got going on by the amount of food that you put in your body. Yeah, by fasting, yeah, intermittent fasting that goes on for a full 24-hour period, yeah, and then you come out of it, or maybe a 2-day fast, yeah, and what you're doing is that you're cleansing your body, cleansing it and giving it rest. You're allowing all the sugar to be absorbed and utilized that is killing you. That's in your body. It's turning into diabetes. Yeah? And the liver that you're going to die from and the lungs that you're going to die from are getting purified during these fasts. Yeah? Your cells are regenerating automatically. They find that the fastest way to regenerative is through intermittent dieting. Fasting, not dieting, but fasting. Yeah? Just literally taking food out of your diet and not eating at all. Yeah? And do that for 24 hours. And don't go gorging at McDonald's after that. The whole lifestyle has to move forward, you know, so that when you're done, you know, you eat light, yeah, and you try and eat only a couple meals in a day, and you do that maybe for a couple more days, and then you do intermittent fasting again. Yeah, so you really want to move yourself into eating, you know, at least 40% less than what you're eating now. And you can do that through intermittent fasting very easily, because you're not eating anything on those days. Yeah, and it's not about not eating. It's not about starving or anything like that. It's about living longer, and we do not know how to live. And I'm going to help you, because you have to do this in order to find out what a human being is, and then find out how it is you are a healer. You're not going to be a healer. I mean, there's all these people out there that are saying, I'm a healer, but they're smoking, they're drinking, yeah? They're living a really bad life, and they're very negative, yeah? And they just act like they can just get up and go do a seance healing on somebody, and that's it. You know, and they're fine. They can go back to smoking a cigarette or doing whatever they're doing, and no impurities is transferred to this person. And that's absolutely untrue. Yeah, it's absolutely untrue. That person is taking on your shit, and there's nothing in you that's taking on theirs, because you're too impure. You have to have an abundant amount of light, which comes from your compassion, from your lack of negativity, from your positive mind, from your good diet, from your immensely constant competitive relationship to making sure that you're healthy and you're muscular and that you got strong muscles and you got strong bones. And that takes an athlete. You know, something you don't just go, well, I don't know. I mean, everybody has a tendency to think of the past as though I wish I had. And every child who's in the world has no vitality because people are doing that. We give vitality to others by living a hard life, not a soft life. Yeah? So even though you got a full day work, and even though you got all this mental shit going on, you still got to work out an hour a day. And it's got to be hard. It's got to be really hard. You gotta be sweating so bad you cannot imagine you could have sweat that much. Yeah? And you go in tired and you come out tireder. Yeah? You can hardly walk when you come out. You know, your legs are so burnt out. You know, your squats, you do 120 squats. That'll get you, you know? But then you go in and you do 4. And you go, whoa, that's too much. You know, and then you go down, you know, and your mind tells you you did it all. You did everything you're supposed to do. But you're killing the little children who need people to be a way shower. And everything that you think no one knows, no one feels, no one experiences, that's the lie. That's the biggest lie on earth. Yeah? Is the fact that you can be all the vices that you want to be, all the slovenliness, yeah? Eat all the food you want without consideration, you know? Without consideration, yeah? That in itself is a 6th-ray quality, yeah? And it's all in that. It's all that quality that leads us into this door called the astral plane. You know, and there's all these teachings that I have to give, but it takes every single person an enormous amount of personal strength, yeah, personal courage, personal fortitude, yeah, in order to catch the teachings, because that's where I'm standing. That's my lifestyle. That's my existence. So if you're not doing any of that, then I'm not going to fit into your life. You might want it. It may be a great thing, but it's not. You don't believe your coach. Make sense? You don't believe your nutritionist. You don't believe your doctor, and your doctor's Jesus. Your coach is Jesus. You know? And I'm like this all the time, 24/7, like a fanatic or something. Yeah? Because there's no way out of it. Yeah? We live in a body, and that body is an athletic body. It's built with bones and structure and muscle. We could run 100 miles. A marathon is 20 some odd miles. I ran a marathon. I used to be a marathoner. Yeah? So I know how hard it is to run really long distances. 7 miles a day would be my average run. 7 miles a day. Then just go, oh, okay, I'm going to do 20 some odd miles. That's a killer. I don't care how many times you did 7 miles a day. It's a killer. Yeah? But putting yourself through that process, yeah? If you know you're going to do a marathon, if you know you've got this to achieve, you got to work every day in order to be able to get through it. You got to do, 5Ks, you got to do 10Ks, you got to do all these things if you choose to be a marathoner. Yeah? And it's not that you're going to be an athlete. It's not that you're going to compete with anybody. And it's not that you're ever going to get paid for it, or hardly ever even get a medal or anything. Yeah? But it's a good way to stay athletically healthy. But actually, I don't recommend running. Yeah, because it's hard on you. Very, very hard on you. What I recommend is swimming. Yeah? Swimming is one of the best athletic activities you can take on. Yeah? It uses your whole body, and it'll almost kill you in 5 minutes of straight-ass swimming. Yeah? You're dead, And you got to do it for at least 15 minutes hard. And if you can't, then you're not healthy. Yeah? So you got to do it until you get healthy. Yeah? And you can't accept the fact, oh, I'm 80, or like me, I'm 69, and I don't even have thoughts like that. Oh, I'm swimming like this because I'm 69. Yeah, I always, I just go, well, I feel exactly the same way I've always felt. It's always hard, It feels like a slug, going through life, But that's life, yeah? It's not as easy as anybody thinks. And if we don't move in this way, yeah, we don't bring the 2nd ray up, and we don't get to these teachings. We get shit like Trump, and we get, false teachings like news media and people like that are just throwing it back and forth. So in order for us to get through this, we need to get the information, We need to know what kind of diet we need in order to get out of this and prevent many, many things from happening. And then we need to think positive thoughts. We're going to live a long time, and we actually want to regenerate. We want to stop this process of thinking that we're going to die, because we are constantly degenerating. What's the sense of dieting or eating right or anything if you ever have that in your mind? If you're not in a world where you know of regeneration, and you get on the process of regeneration, you won't regenerate. You'll be just like every other person on the planet. And we're all just like, why are we dying from this virus? You know, why are some people getting it worse and some people getting it less? You know, even if you had kidney problems, all the things that are going to come from this virus and all the things that we already have, all can be helped out, if not healed, by intermittent dieting and proper eating and exercise. Yeah, even just a little bit of exercise at the beginning. Yeah. But beginning that oxygen, the routine, you know, stepping out of the fact that, well, I stand up a lot, I walk a lot, that's my exercise. You're the biggest liar on the planet. You know, who cares you stand up a lot? You know, oh yeah, I don't use a desk, I don't sit. Yeah, right. That's going to do it. You know, it's better than having clots in your legs and all kinds of things that come from sitting in a chair too long, yeah? But the main thing is exercise, really pushing the level of exercise, pushing weights, you know, bringing your heart up to a place to where it can hardly exist, you know, and push it, keep it at that for quite a while, yeah? And then drink a whole bunch of water and eat right, and then don't eat at all, yeah? And yeah, I could just hear everybody. They're just going, that's life? That's my future? That's what I have to look forward to? Yeah, it's exactly what you have to look forward to. And there is no book I'm going to write. There's nothing I'm going to do to make this easier on you, you know? It's self-explanatory. It's all online. All you got to do is look it up. There are 1 million people out there already following this. Yeah, there's doctors already doing it. Yeah, so let's look at this as a reminder. We've had, let's see if I get the right one here. Yep. We have a president, we have 350 million people in America, and we've done just a little over 5 million, you know, testing. And the president's like saying, well, that's more than anybody in the world has done testing, any other country in the world. Well, that's really kind of crazy, you know, because we have 50 states, each one is a country. So we have to separate our states to then identify, well, the size of this state is about the size of this country. How many people did they have? How many people did we have? And that's honesty. That's honesty. You're not making people stupider and then you cover it up. And then say, see, isn't that better? You know, isn't that better? Yeah. You know, it's as stupid as you can possibly imagine. You know, and you're not stupid. No one's stupid. You know, it is a dark lodge that impresses you with lower mind and the ideologies of lower mind. And you, once they come into your head, you have to deal with it. Oh, is that true? Is that not true? You know? And we're better off not having it come in our head and having the truth come in our head, but we don't. We have illusion and delusion coming in from the dark lodge, yeah? So this is what's going on. There is a new group of world servers. They know that we need to do 30 million people a month, yeah? Not a year, not over a lifetime, but a month. And they have it all set up. They have organized everything to pull it off. So these are the people here. And I showed this the other day.
Major problem. Well, to date, just over 4.5 million COVID-19 tests have been administered in the U.S. That represents just over 1% of the country. Now, the Rockefeller Foundation, one of the largest private donors in the U.S., is rolling out its proposal for a national strategy. Its goal includes reaching 30 million coronavirus tests per week, hiring up to 300,000 people to do contact tracing, and creating a digital sharing platform to encourage the faster spread of data. The Rockefeller Foundation thinks the plan will cost $100 billion. It's investing $15 million toward that project. Well, now I want to bring in the Rockefeller Center Foundation. One of the largest private donors in the U.S. is rolling out its proposal for a national strategy. The goal includes reaching 30 million coronavirus tests per week, hiring up to 300,000 people to do contact tracing, and creating a digital sharing platform to encourage the faster spread of data. The Rockefeller Foundation thinks this plan will cost $100 billion. It's actually investing about $20 million towards that. Raj Shah is the president of the Rockefeller Foundation. He formerly worked as the head of U.S. Agency for International Development.
Yeah, so do you think Trump knows anything of that? Yeah, and any of the government? Yeah, its process is that we get to experience what it is that they have as their plan, and they want the credit that comes from it. That's the way Trump is. Yeah, and anybody who's around him better behave to make sure he gets credit. Even if he discredits himself, you're not saying anything about it. You're just say, well, he was just thinking it over out loud. You know, like anybody would do. You make all kinds of stupid thoughts in your head, but not everybody says them out loud. You know, well, he does. You know, so how can we blame him for that? We're all the same. Yeah. I mean, really, that crazy. They'll stand behind him, even though these are very, very nice, credible people. They're stuck in a process of having to stand behind this guy. So we got scenarios to where that's a good thing, right? He's not going to tell you that, but it is happening. It is something that's available to all the 50 states. Yeah? So these people are working with states, not with the government as much as they are with the whole states. And they're making available this opportunity. So if they break down the states, this state is working on 200 million or 20 million or 50 million, all coming out to 10 billion, 50 states, yeah? And they're all taking their relationships of, okay, we need those 300,000 people, workers, working in our states and making these test kits and providing these test kits, and a clinic that's built and set up in order to do the testing in each state, yeah, or nearby state, yeah. So if there's 2 states, we could do it in 1, but whatever we could do to get it around a 24-hour cycle and finish testing in a 1-week time and finish 30 million tests, yeah, and it can be done. It's a matter of having enough people and having all the states cooperate. So I'm saying this because you're not going to hear this from the government, but this is my government. You know, I work with a new group of world servers. He's from the new group of world servers. You know he's busy on the phone. You know he's working hard. You know he's contacting everybody, and he's not talking to the president. He's not talking to Pence or anybody else. He's probably trying, but he's not going to stop there, because they're never going to mention it to anybody and start fundraising or anything like that on a world scale or on a scale in the United States. It's just not happening. But it will happen because we have the new group of world servers. Yeah, you're just not aware that the new group of world servers exists. It's really
and hope. This is the promise of regenerative medicine. Science has long known that the human body responds to injury and disease by attempting to heal itself. Regenerative medicine accelerates this natural healing process by harnessing advances in biology, immunology, and other sciences to restore health and function to damaged tissues and organs.
Regenerative medicine is truly a game changer.
If we can take a patient's own cells and get them working on the patient's problem, we could have a tremendous amount of impact on the care of medicine.
This is something we need now. We see this is the end of the line for a lot of patients for some wounds. And I think this is something that's very easily translatable to the bedside.
Recognizing the vast potential of this emerging field, Mayo Clinic has established the Center for Regenerative Medicine. The center serves as a catalyst for the entire Mayo enterprise, advancing the practice of regenerative therapies across medical and surgical specialties, educating the next generations of physicians and scientists, and addressing patients' unmet needs with next-generation solutions. Many patients are already benefiting from proven regenerative therapies. For example, physicians use materials from the patient's own body to assist in the healing process. Dr. Rafael Sierra uses a similar approach when treating certain patients with osteonecrosis of the hip. Osteonecrosis is essentially the death of bone material, sometimes caused by the use of chemotherapy in cancer patients.
It's a very simple procedure where we take bone marrow concentrate that's obtained from the iliac crest of patients with osteonecrosis, and through a hip decompression, that's a trocar and a sleeve that's placed into the femoral head, we're able to deliver these cells into the dead bone with the hopes of regenerating, but most importantly to improve pain. These patients have a lot of pain, and the pain improves with the decompression procedure, and it seems to be even further improved with the injection of the bone marrow concentrate. This is a step towards trying to hopefully treat a problem that for the most part has been untreatable for many decades.
These regenerative therapies are meeting patients' needs today, and Mayo physicians and researchers have many new ideas in the pipeline. In another trial, cultured stem cells are being used to heal painful perianal fistulas in patients with Crohn's disease.
We have about 500,000 patients in the U.S. who have Crohn's disease. About 20% of those will have perianal fistulas, and we really have no good treatment currently for that problem. So this trial is really designed to help wound healing in those patients who have this bad problem of fistulas. Now in surgery, we have a lot of patients who have trouble with wound healing. So I'm very excited about the ability of regenerative medicine to help patients that we struggle with on a daily basis, patients with terrible infections, patients who've had burns, patients who've had major cancer surgery and have huge tissue loss, trauma patients. All these patients may benefit from a program that allows the body's own cells to regenerate and replace that normal tissue in patients that have tremendous tissue loss. So it's a very exciting area for me as a surgeon in an area that I struggle with almost on a daily basis.
Dr. Stephen Moran is researching how regenerative medicine can help heal wounds to skin and tendons through the use of spherically engineered bioscaffolds.
Chronic wounds is a huge issue in the United States. It's a $4 billion cost to the American public in terms of managing these things. And they develop from all kinds of different traumas, whether it's burns or chronic wounds, diabetic wounds, patients that have poor blood supply to the tissue. And what we've been working on specifically in our lab is a type of scaffolding that not only causes new skin to grow, but also increases the blood supply.
Another promising Mayo trial works with patients suffering from amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. This devastating disease destroys nerve cells in the brain and spinal column, eventually leading to paralysis and death. Once again, a Mayo team is testing a cell-based therapy using stem cells harvested from the patient's own body fat. In the lab, these stem cells are isolated and multiplied, then injected back into the patient's spinal fluid.
We are using mesenchymal stem cells, also known as MSCs, to treat ALS. The hope with this therapy is that MSCs will help protect the neurons that are there. So the idea is to slow the disease course, hopefully to the point where it stops, but any improvement in the disease course would be great from our standpoint.
In the new group of world servers, there is a lot of doctors, a lot of engineers, a lot of people. If you're in that group, you really applied yourself. Yeah. So like Dr. Wells. Yeah, Dr. Wells is a doctor who is the one who helps to establish integrative medicine. He has clinics, he works in the hospitals, he establishes all the classes for doctors to become doctors of integrative medicine. He's number one in that, from New York to all the way to California and to Hawaii. And in Hawaii, he is the founder and establisher of the marijuana clinics and the science of investigating through the research at the University of Hawaii. So he's the head of the dispensaries of Hawaii. So Hawaii is nothing like any other place. You can't go there and buy the stuff you can get in California. You can't get gummies. You can't get, you can't get all these things that you can buy as products, in Hawaii. You can buy them online. You can have them from other places like Amazon, but you can't go to a dispensary and buy something without it having been grown by the dispensary, harvested by the dispensary, and the tinctures or anything that they're putting out is produced by the dispensary. And there is a specific group of labs that do all the independent testing, making sure that it is absolutely pure and without any kind of mold or any kind of other things that might be put into it. That, you just never know when you're getting shit from California or anywhere in the United States. But Hawaii stood up and they got rid of all of the corn, or not corn, but sugar cane. That used to be the number one industry in Hawaii. It's all gone now. Yeah, so now it's all a bunch of land that's available, and it's being used not just for harvesting of marijuana, but harvesting of crops and maintaining and getting it right so that people in Hawaii will have their own vegetables. And we're not buying them from someplace else. And we don't get milk that says local milk from California. Yeah, I live in Maui, so I know all this stuff. I know it's all real true, But Maui is the headquarters where all this is taking place, where I overshadow. I live in places that can make a difference on the earth. I live in Nepal in order to make a difference, through Tibet and India and all of the Eastern nations. Yeah, I live in California so I can make a difference in the land of the United States, all the way from Alaska all the way down to Mexico and as far as we can go. That's my energy, is vortexing this thing and making a very big difference. So our continent is unimaginably more advanced than almost any other place, and every other place is actually connected. Yeah, because I've lived in Copenhagen for a year. I've lived in London for 2 years. I've lived in these different places on Earth, and they all got established by me standing there going crazy in London and in Copenhagen. And, it wasn't good when I was there, but it became good after I left. In Copenhagen, nobody believed in Christ. I got on the radio, told everybody Christ exists and Christ is coming, and you better get it together, because you better want to meet Christ, because he's going to want to meet you. And that freaked everybody out. You were there. Yeah. One of my students here, Lars, was one of the first people that I met out of Copenhagen on a radio station, Lotus Radio, I think it was, or something like that. And it was the first English-speaking radio station that I could talk to. And I told everything about God. God exists, and God exists in the science, and God exists in these ways, and there is Jesus Christ, and you better be ready. Yeah, so those influences I did in London, I did those influences in England, I did those influences in Nepal. Everywhere I go, I push this energy into the earth, into that area, create a regency for the planetary logos, and I'm that region. I don't leave other regions behind and have the in charge of, it's me, So I'm running around doing all this stuff, and that affects an enormous amount of science and development, because I have these things I need to get developed. I don't just need NASA to do this. I need other people to do other things that have more open availability to do those things, like Germany and Russia and China and other places in India who have studied homeopathy and studied energetic medicine and applied certain types of physics and quantum physics to things. Yeah? So through Germany and through other locations like England and other places, they developed, let me look here, Well, they develop resonance, yeah, therapy. Yeah, it's bioresonance, and that technology is an advancement that I started when I was 30 and began introducing. So I worked with a man named Bruce Copen, and he was the #1 master of all of radionics and energetic medicine. So I worked with him for 10 years, daily, constantly, helping him stay alive, helping him get past his wife dying, helping him get past depression, and helping him stay in the science so that after he dies, it will be carried on by somebody. And it wasn't going to be me, but he wanted it to be me. And it can't be me because I can't do that. Yeah. So I kept moving and moving and moving, and I got it to be someone here in America. So there now that and in Germany and other locations, the whole entire science has been picked up and moved in to resonatory vibrational medicine. Yeah. And so that kind of stuff is now going to be available to humanity. Yeah, but it's going to be a while, like maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years before we get to the science of studying light, magnetism, and the electromagnetic field and quantum levels of frequency, how it works in resonance to things. We know that if you take a frequency that is the same tone that comes off a glass and you play that tone back to the glass, because of similarity, the vibration of similarity, that frequency causes the glass to shake, just like it would if you were to cling the glass. If you cling a glass and then replicate that in a speaker, it'll do the same clinging in the glass. It'll just like it did when you cleaned it. And if you do it even higher, the glass will break. It'll explode. Yeah. So by knowing this, they put that into cells, and they started doing biofrequency or bioenergetic frequencies in the cells. And they found out that cells at a certain frequency explode. Yeah, cancer cells and other cells explode. Yeah, so then they moved that into energetic frequency. So it could be literally pointed down to a very specific cell, a very specific location, a very specific thing. Yeah, and then find what that frequency is, and then test it to see if it's out of balance, and then transmit back to it a balanced frequency. And that's bioenergetic frequency. Yeah, bioresonance. Your bioresonance is resonating with the biofield that's in everything. Everything has its own thumbprint. Yeah, everything is identified in its own individual reality, but yet as a gland or an organ or whatever, they have biofields, and they have very specific codes to them. This is the liver, this is the lung, this is the left lung, this is the right lung, this is the left node, this is the, all these different, even tiniest sections, all can be frequency, energetically coded. You can find the frequency and then code it. They did that through the whole entire body. That took a long time, a long, long time. And now it's been developed. So all of that is in technology, and we can begin working in that. But it's going to be a while, but it's there. It's just like in energetic medicine, moving what we're doing now with regenerative medicine. They're better understanding the possibilities of alternative medicine. Yeah, and regenerative medicine is definitely the doorway into alternative medicine. But it's done in a scientific approach. So let me just show you. Other than that, we have a few things that's going on that's causing a lot of difficulty in the process of our virus and our anxiety level, and our attitude and how we think things are going on. So we have a president that does a tweet telling people that they should buy guns. And here's an event going on.
gun sales are double what they would usually be right now. He says one reason is because his store is in an area with a big Asian population.
Just people like discriminating, which really, I think people are kind of overreacting.
Lynn says some customers are worried that because of their race, they'll face discrimination.
Or could it be our president?
Liberate Virginia and save your great Second Amendment. It is under siege.
Then he was asked about it at a press conference.
Is this the right time to kind of bring in a Second Amendment issue?
I think when they talk about taking your guns away, and if you notice, at the beginning of this pandemic, there were more guns sold, I think, than at almost any time in history. So it's obviously a big issue. And then you have them working and signing documents trying to take your Second Amendment away, essentially. So I do think it's an appropriate time to bring it up.
You think so? I don't know. Yeah. Because there's now more guns being sold, 4 times more guns ever than before at this time of the year. 4 times. And yet everything's closed. And they have video of people sitting in chairs waiting outside gun stores around the block, waiting to get in, even though everybody's saying, don't go out, don't go out. The only place they're going to is to the gun store. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? And that's fact. That's just fact. Yeah? Because people are crazy. Yeah? And they're thinking in their mind, they've seen a lot of movies, and there's step-by-step things that happen before the apocalypse. Part of it is that, we start having problems getting to the grocery store. We don't have food at the grocery store. People start getting angry. People start getting violent. People start raiding your house to get groceries or money or things that they need. Regular apocalypse scene in TV. And what do? Well, shit, I don't have any guns. And first thing into the mind of the lower mind of people who play football, baseball, basketball, competitive nature, the whole nature of the things. And then you got a president that says your human right is to have a gun. Don't lose that right. It's not in the Bible. It's not something from a right from the, right to God or anything like that, the 10 Commandments. It actually says the opposite. Thou shalt not kill, number 1. And guns are only made to kill. They're, kill everything. And they're not, when you buy it at this moment, they're not made to kill animals. They're made to kill people. So I wouldn't mind people going hunting. I wouldn't mind people, at this point in time going more fishing, getting out, and not having packing plants. Because we're finding that packing plants is the number 1 place where if you work at a packing plant, you're going to die. They don't like to let you leave. They won't give you masks. They won't give you gloves. They won't give you a garment to put on. If you start showing symptoms, they move you down the line. Yeah? And people are getting sick and dying. But what did the president do?
It's getting drawn up. I should be signing that over the next hour or so.
President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Tuesday mandating that U.S. meat processing plants must stay open during the coronavirus crisis, despite concerns that food processing workers will become infected at work.
Taking the liability, which frees up the entire system.
Earlier on Tuesday, Trump said his order will help protect large meat processors such as Tyson Foods from legal liability in case employees catch the virus as a result of having to go to work.
We have had some difficulty where they're having a liability that's really unfair to them.
Unions said the order needed to do more to protect workers. Trump's executive order comes after the world's biggest meat companies, including Tyson, Smithfield Foods, Cargill, and JBS USA, halted operations at about 20 slaughterhouses and processing plants as workers fell ill, stoking fears of a potential food supply shortage. The chairman of Tyson Foods warned this week that the food supply chain is, quote, quote, breaking, and a senior Trump administration official said that if action is not taken, meat production capacity for the whole country could be reduced by as much as 80%.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's true, yeah. But the thing is that intermittent fasting could save our world, could save us right now. Yeah, if we all just decided that we're going to have tofu scramble for breakfast, yeah, we cut back a lot of that processed food. Yeah, if we all decide that we're going to eat just 2 meals a day or 1 meal a day, and decide that we're going to fast every third day, you know, then, you know, we're not pulling anything off the shelf. You know, we're not ordering anything that would provide that food for us for that day. You know, and that really cuts down on a whole picture. We are a whole. We're a whole, yeah? And it just looks like we're independent people doing what we're doing, but in reality, there's people out there providing this for us, you know? So, and right now, nobody can provide shit. You can't provide anything. And the easiest things are things that we actually could get to. You know, there is an enormous amount of vegetables and things like that that are being grown by farmers, but they can't get it to people because there's not a program setting it up properly. And yet it is done. You know, it's really pretty darn easy to do, you know, to move through this and get the crops to the people and move it in the way that needs to be done. We're moving a lot of things, yeah? You know, so we need to move our interest in what we are eating, yeah, and change that and localize ourselves to understand that we're responsible for being extremely healthy. So while we're the blessed people on the planet who's not sick right now, we need to do everything we can for everybody else to be a good way shower, you know? Do everything we can to realize, well, maybe I can eat 1/10 the amount of meat and maybe no red meat at all. Yeah? Maybe I can eat things that are available rather than things I think I need to eat. Yeah? And you could do really well, you know, getting through knowing that your protein source is the main thing you need to get a hold of, and your vegetables are the main thing you need to get a hold of, and eat those things in a healthy mode. You know, and not thinking that you have to have bread, or you have to have milk, you have to have cheese. Those are all very processed things. It takes a whole big manufacturing plant to make you a loaf of bread. And they are not open for business, and they shouldn't be. You know, and you should not be needing it at all. You know, we need to learn now that we don't need bread, we don't need processed food. We don't need 40 to 50% of all the productive food that we put onto our plates and use and consume. We don't need it. And it's killing us. It's the worst thing for us, is stuffing ourselves with all this shit and getting so toxified, getting diabetic and everything, every symptom we can have from heart to dementia, all caused by the fact we just keep sticking food in our mouth. And we don't know how to stop. Yeah? Yeah. And we have the worst teachers in the world out there because everybody's ignorant. I'm not. You know? And through the new group of world servers, you're going to be able to seek and find and get information that will stabilize you and strengthen you. And then you'll be a way shower. Yeah? So that's what I had to say. So let's do a meditation. This meditation is called I Take a Body. And it's a pretty interesting meditation. If you listen to it really well, you'll get an idea as to what I'm talking about, because everything I'm talking about is in this meditation. And it's about the new group of world servers. It's about the healing of the soul and what is the soul, and that God is the soul, and the manifestation of the soul, and things of that nature. So that's the purpose of taking a body. You know, so the purpose of taking a body is in this puja. And we're going through all this hardship. And yet, if we live through this and do all the right things, you'll understand this puja, the purpose of taking a body. Yeah, because this is the purpose of taking a body. It's not about eating or having breakfast or lunch or dinner, and it's not about, you know, all these things that we think we need to do, when in reality, we can do probably 60% less. I'm being really nice saying 40% less, but I really think it could be 60% less, because I think a whole lot of people are out there in a state of gluttony, you know, and they're so overwhelmed in how much they eat and what they eat, and their fear of, you know, I didn't get my food today, you know, as though that's going to lead you to a heart attack or something. In reality, it really is good for you not to have eaten that day. You know, and if you could start thinking in those terms and get out of these terms where these people tell you you have to eat the moment you're hungry, yeah, and you want to catch it before you're hungry so that you don't get a spike. You know, all these different things they tell you, you know. And it's all untrue. If you do the fasting and if you eat light and you eat the right things, you won't have those symptoms that you have to kind of monitor. Yeah? All right, so enjoy. Do puja. Puja, puja, puja. Okay, just repeat after me. I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad.
I invoke the power, the love, and wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad.
To guide me into the right activity in the plan.
To guide me into the right activity in the plan.
To clarify and stimulate my mind. To transform and transmute my feelings and emotions. To energize and vitalize and heal my physical and etheric body. So there is a normal flow of energy in my physical and etheric body. Through this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the One.
Through this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the One.
All in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
All in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Son of God. I know myself. I infuse a body. I am its life, and in that life shall I see life. That life is known as love. I am the love of God. I know the Father, and I know His life is love. I am the body and its loving life. I am the self whose quality is love. I am the life of God Himself. The Mother, Father, Son am I. Behind these three stands the unknown God. That God am I. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of mankind. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of mankind. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the wills of men and women, a purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, we call the race of mankind. Let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. I call upon the one most high God. To let the disciple know the nature of his Lord of love. Seven, the aspects of love of God. Seven, the colors of the manifesting one. Sevenfold the work. Seven, the energies. And sevenfold the path back to the center of peace. Let the disciple live in love and love in life. The soul is the Son of God, the product of the union of spirit and matter. The soul is an embodiment of consciousness of mind, the expression of divine intelligent awareness. The soul is a unity of energy, vibrating in unison with one of the seven ray lines and colored by a particular ray of light. The personality of the soul is the embodiment of love applied intelligently, producing an attractive form which will serve to express that loving intelligence. The soul is intended to be the embodiment of divine purpose, applied in great active creativity, which produces the power of creative love. We are born the love father or the mother of the desire of life for form. Express the love, the magnetic attractiveness of God's nature, and the responsiveness of form nature, and the I am consciousness itself of the awareness of deity in life. Okay, and just relax. Okay, open your eyes. So, there's a lot of things happening in the world that need to be focused on, and which is healing and a change of our lifestyle. The one thing that the coronavirus is causing is death and illness and the bringing of that virus. But it's also causing a wake up for us to be aware of the fact that there are preventive measures, after the fact, after this happens. What we can do to better our kidneys, what we can do to heal our lungs, what we can do to heal the circulation with all the clots and everything. Yeah, you need to eat a lot of avocado, you need to take vitamin D, you need to do all the things I'm talking about. And if you do those things, you'll survive after this in a much better way than you're going to. And if we change our ways dramatically and do as I say, go to regenerative medicine, call the Mayo Clinic, then find out where the local doctors are, and go there once this is over with, or even while it's going on. What can I do? Yeah. You ask, what can I do in order to prevent this? You know, what measures can I take? And they're going to tell you intermittent fasting is one of the better things you can do. A change of your diet to change over to where you're more keto oriented than you are burning off your carbohydrates. You know, because it's a totally different function in the body. Totally different. When you've burnt off those sugar molecules, yeah, then you're actually now living off what you've been living off for the many hundreds of thousands of years that you've been alive and existent. You know, there's no time that we were walking around with candy bars. There was no time that we had an opportunity to have ice cream. There was no time that we sat down and eaten a loaf of bread, even though it's the staff of life. It never was, never will be, and is not. Yeah? It's things that happened when we got lazy. It's things that happened when we didn't go hunt. When we just sat around and had nothing to do but eat. So people just gorged themselves and they got fatter and they got diabetes. You know, Indians are the worst. You know, people poor, have no control or anything. You take it all away, they get lazy. You know? In every generation, in every continent, in every nation, we're all just one thing, human beings. And we're male and female, yeah? Male and female, that's it. You know, there's nothing else going on, just that. So we have to look at ourselves as being humans that need to behave as humans. So we have to be harmless, and we need to learn what harmlessness is. And if you go to regenerative doctor, they'll help you understand that this is a harmless way of going about helping you heal. But you need to do preventive measures, because they're already studying that too, in order to prevent many of these things from taking place and to heal these things as you're trying to begin your healing process. We're going to do these things, but you have to also do these things in order to carry out the finish of the healing practice. Homeopathy used to be, Hahnemann, the man who invented homeopathy, had an incredibly strict reality. If you're going to take the homeopathic, you have to follow this really long list. Yeah? And it was incredible. It was like going to church. I mean, you had to stop all these things. You couldn't eat half of what you ate. You had to eat half of what you ate. You had to fast at least twice a week. It was absolutely required, or the homeopathic won't work, because you had to put your body into stasis. You had to put your body into a balanced state so that what you're taking that is balancing will fulfill its mission. So you're in a state of regeneration, you're in a state of balance, you're in a state of healing, and you're feeding your body correctly, you're sleeping correctly, you're not drinking, you're not smoking. All these things are on that list, you know? And if you're not married, you're not having sex. What? You know? All those things are on that list as a homeopathic, as a person who's going to a homeopath. And now what we find, those are things that actually are necessary. Not things that, only a rare person like Dr. Hahnemann would recommend, and he's crazy anyway because he's using pellets of sugar that have absolutely no atomic energy of anything whatsoever other than sugar in it. But in reality, it is the vibration of something of like cures like. They went through the longest clinical process of research. Hospitals, clinics, enormous number of hospitals and clinics were established, and people came to those hospitals and they went through testing. And they would give them amounts of arsenic or amounts of sulfur or amounts of certain things in order to prove what would be the symptoms when a person gets toxically involved in those things. And then those symptoms, they'd realize, oh, this person has these symptoms, I could treat him with this homeopathic that would cause these symptoms if it was in a toxic state. Yeah. So, and in those days, everything was a toxic state. So most of the things that we were being healed from are things that we got from our environment, or that's called also nosodes, things that we get from our previous life and are passed on genetically in the mainstream. Yeah, like syphilis and psychosis. Yeah, things that you actually can take homeopathics for. Yeah, and since we've had so much caffeine, so much tobacco, there's now homeopathics for that because we've adulterated our body with those things, and now we are more tobacco than we are human. Does that make sense? So we have to take these vibrational frequencies, and in the end, we're going to move to that. We have to go to that. You have to use flower essences, you have to use other things, the vibrational frequency of the kingdoms of earth that are all of light, and they won't harm you, they'll do no harm whatsoever, they'll only affect you if the frequency is similar to your illness. And that's it. It won't do any harm to you. So these are future ways in which we're going to keep ourselves in the soul, you know, and establish the soul and have experiences of ability to remain alive and healthy and youthful until your dying day. Youthful. And looking like you're about 45, 50 years old, yeah? And you're 95 and 150. And you're still running and exercising and swimming and playing and riding bikes and having a great old time. But yet you should be senile and dead 30 years ago, you know? But it's going to be a norm for many people living over 200 years in the next 100 years. And it's not because of science and putting in, fake limbs and giving us new hearts from a breeding company that breeds hearts and all this kind of stuff. It would be from our regenerative ability and our blessing from God to live longer. And we have no idea that we've disgraced ourselves in God, and we get what we get. You get exactly what you get, you know, and your ignorance comes with it. So you can't see your way out, and you can only feed off the bottom, you know. It's like everybody else because you can't see beyond the higher realm. Yeah. So that's one of the things of this virus, is that it's going to help to establish people to seek alternative understanding and preventive medicine that they might not have ever done before. Yeah. And this is a great opportunity because we've come to so many different, in the New Group World Servers, we've come to so many different higher minds and people with strength and courage to try all this that I'm saying. And their lives changed. Their kidneys got healed, their heart got better, they ended, you know, I mean, there's people who are taking CBD. And CBD helps in all of these areas, kidney problems, heart problems, depression, lack of sleep, everything you've got a problem with. CBD is the #1 agent for bringing balance to yourself. Yeah? And a good amount of CBD, morning, noon, afternoon, nighttime, sleep time. Yeah? Because it's literally a part of our physical body. The cannabinoids are in our body, and they don't get it from ourselves, they get it from outside. So we have to take the cannabinoid in order to be a whole person. And we don't know what that person is because we suffer all the time from not having these cannabinoids and the right diet, right behavior, and spiritual relationship. We have no idea that Christ brought cannabinoids to us and God created us, you know, in likeness. Yeah? So all the things that I'm teaching you are all the aspects of God that have attributed to the creation of humanity. And we're just getting back into the area in which we can be complementary to going along with God's creation, yeah, and become more humane. All right, so enjoy. Have a great day. Eat well. Sleep well. Live long.